evening, everybody, and welcome to the 6th Local Planning Committee for the Downtown Revitalization Initiative in Kings Park. The meeting is being recorded and photographed. Local planning committees are working sessions open to the public, but are not intended as interactive public workshops. Attendees from the public will have an opportunity to share comments at the end of the meeting. Public comment period is subject to the Town of Smithtown Rules of Decorum per Town Code Section 76.8. Following the meeting, written comments can be submitted to kingsparkdri@gmail.com, and all summaries and media are posted online at kingsparkdri.com. We'll handle roll call. Councilman Lohman.
Yeah.
Peter Elkowitz.
Here.
Robert Ansbach.
Here.
Robert Cesari.
Here.
Susan Dietrich.
Here.
Caitlin Denuna is absent but submitted absentee form. Dr. Timothy Egan.
Here.
Joanne Galita-Hahn is absent. Linda Henninger is absent but submitted an absentee form. Joseph Johnson, I think, is not here, but it will be arriving. Sean Lehman is absent but submitted an absentee form. Christian Mateka.
Here.
Lisa McDermott.
Here.
Vincent Pickford.
Here.
Anthony Tanzi.
Here.
And these are the conflict of interest forms received to date. I don't think there are any new conflicts, but are there any new conflicts at this time from the committee? Seeing none. As this is our last meeting, the objective today is really to decide on a slate of projects to submit to the state for final evaluation. We have 20 million in requests, and the target based on the DRI program is to get that list of projects down to 13 to 16 million in requests, and from that the state will award 9.7 million from the list that the committee decides today. Slide. We had a final evaluation. We wanted to update folks on updates to projects that happened between meeting 5 and 6. It was open from October 31st through November 12th. Of the people who responded, or folks who responded, we had over 110 survey respondents. Just like last survey, we had about 100 people respond to the survey. 90% live in Kings Park, 30% are property owners, business owners, and workers in Kings Park as well, and 5% are residents of the town of Smithtown, but outside of Kings Park. And this is where projects, next slide, this is where projects ended up. For the most part, there weren't really projects that, we kind of divided projects into high alignment, mid alignment, and low alignment. That was the questions that were asked of the public. It's the same similar questions that were asked of the LPC as well. You all got a survey that asked, is the project in high alignment with these goals, mid alignment, or low alignment? And to that extent, none of the projects really switched where they were in terms of high, medium, and low. The projects at the high kind of, switched places a little bit. The projects in the middle kind of switched places in the low, kind of switched around and then low, but nothing really crossed between each of those groups, even with these updates. Okay, next slide. This is, again, a reminder. The goal today is to create a final slate of recommended projects that takes into consideration feedback from the public and is finalized by the LPC. So right now we have just over 20 million in requests, and again we have to get that down to 13 to 16 million, and from that the state will award 9.7 million. For projects that are not included in the final slate, the LPC may also recommend, maybe these are really great projects, they're all, a lot of these are worthy, maybe they don't make it onto the final slate, but we identify it as important to the community. In that case, the LPC can also decide to create or identify those projects as pipeline projects. Next slide. So the LPC was also asked to put together evaluations of all the projects, and this is where we landed. Again, not many projects I don't think there was really any project that switched from one side to the other. Things just moved around, but this is kind of what we're gonna start with the basis of discussion today. Yeah, these are just where the projects landed. It's kind of been kind of similar through since the first time you all have evaluated the projects, and you know, there have been improvements made to these projects, but sometimes that just doesn't, you know, move the needle. But we do have a good slate of projects at the high end, and then, you know, towards the mid and if necessary the low, then we have to discuss which projects will be added to the slate at that stage. If we were to only take the high projects at the moment, which we'll get to in a second, that will total roughly 10.9 million in requests. So it's not quite 13 million. So we'll have to, from the other projects, decide which of those would be advanced to the slate, and so to get to 13 million. A lot of projects went up and down in terms of their grant requests because of the fact that, you know, from the feedback from this committee, we did ask, went back to a lot of the private sponsors and asked them to reduce their asks. I think that was the #1 feedback across consistently. And a lot of the private sponsors have since reduced what they are asking. In some cases, you do see requests being increased because of cost estimation. The other thing that happened between meeting 5 and 6 is that we did a evaluation of the cost estimation. We have a third-party cost estimator who looked at all of these projects. We had to go back to a lot of the sponsors, both the town and sponsors, to see what they would, you know, propose as their final cost, because that determines what they're going to request in terms of the grant. So those numbers cannot be changed at this point because that's what we've confirmed with the sponsors, we've confirmed with the town for their projects, and that's really what they're requesting. Let's go over project scope updates. The 2634 Main Street is new construction. There was discussion about what is, it really is, it said 2.5 stories. We have clarified that it was 3 stories at 21,000 square feet, a mixed-use development, and you know, the new building will include 5 retail spaces and 16 one-bedroom apartments. And this is project 2634 Main Street. Yeah, 13. Project 13, based on feedback from the LPC, the scope did not necessarily change, but because it was 2 buildings, the LPC's feedback was that it should be 2 projects, or we should, you know, separate the project into 2. So that became 2 projects. So 13A is One Village Plaza. This is mostly a facade renovation, but also the installation of an elevator and ADA ramp, as well as 12 Renwick Avenue. 12 Renwick will be a 1-story addition, so it's a 1-story building right now, and they're adding a 2nd floor and 6 new apartment units above. So that's what it looks like as 2 separate projects. So you should consider them as 2 different and distinct projects when evaluating. Next slide. This was a slide presented at last meeting. Nothing has really changed. These are the projects that are proposing housing and the number of units that are being proposed. They range anywhere from 2 to 40, 40 on the 125 Meadow Road development, and various, you know, 2, 3 additions, and then 2634 is adding 15, and as I mentioned, 12 Renwick is adding 6. The rent ranges are anywhere from 2,500 up to 3,200, and based on Suffolk County income levels, or that's basically the standard, we always measure it against the county level affordability in terms of, you know, what percentage it matches the average income in the county level. All of them are like roughly at 75 to 100% of the county income. So that's what we would call moderate income. It's not low income, it's not high income, it's moderate income. Next slide, community facility usage. This is just a summary of which projects are providing community facility space. 2634 Main Street will provide 1,400 square feet of commercial space that will be allocated to a nonprofit. 40 Church Street, which is the VFW, will provide a 3,000 square foot renovation of their building. And Project 18 is the American Legion, which will provide renovations of 1,800 square foot of their building. In the case of the VFW, they'll increase bookable time by 55% and allow the building to serve as a community disaster relief facility. The American Legion expects to increase public usage by 50%. As well, it will also become a community disaster relief site. Next slide. These are all the projects that are providing open and patio space. Project 2, the pathways to Main Street and Savat will provide 240 feet of pathway and 1,000 square feet of landscape space. Project 3 is providing 34,000 square foot of open space plus 410 feet of new trail. And then Project 4, 6, 7, and 12 have anywhere from 300 to 2,000 square feet of new outdoor patio space. So just what they're providing to activate the public realm, essentially. Okay, so those are project updates. Are there any questions from the committee members on project updates?
Yes. Did you say for 26 to 34 that part of that space would be used for a nonprofit?
Yes. They intend to rent out one of the 5 commercial spaces to a nonprofit at below market rate rents. Are there any other questions from the committee members? Yes?
Real quick, I noticed some of the price of the money being requested from the DRI is different on the slide versus the worksheet here. Specifically that one right there.
Yes, it is 900,000. Sorry, but this worksheet is correct. Let's just.
So on the Long Island Railroad pathways to Main Street and Russ Savat, it says 287, but originally they were requesting 300?
Yes,
that changed?
it's down to 287, which was based on cost estimation. What we determined the price, I think it was actually closer to 500,000 originally on like the first meeting. Yeah. Yes, it's down to 287. So then whatever the numbers are on the worksheet are what's final. Yeah. Because there are a lot of projects that have consistently ended up in the high end, we would start with that so we can get those out of the way pretty quickly. So the first project that we will take up is the streetscape and pedestrian safety improvements. This is a request for $4.5 million from the town of Smithtown to introduce a number of streetscape improvements, not limited to pedestrian improvements, crossings, but also utility line relocation, the creation of a new parking lot, and because of the inclusion of the utility, we have to phase this project. So what we are funding in the first phase is primarily the utility line relocation, the extension of pedestrian improvements and safety improvements along Main Street, as well as the parking lot. The remainder, improvements on Meadow Road, Indian Head Road, and Church Street will be in phase 2, but that is not part of the funding request. The priorities would be Main Street, the utility line relocation on Main Street, as well as the creation of a new parking lot on Main Street. What it really is also funding is the utility line relocation on the entirety. Yes, that's included in the 4.5 million. Okay, so
Are they buried?
they're relocating to the back, or they in places where feasible it would be buried. But
Why is it going to go behind the buildings? You relocate the poles, and then once that's done, then every building has to have a connection from the pole to the individual properties, which there's a cost to them to do as well. And then you got to factor in Cablevision, Verizon, which we don't have those numbers. We never received them.
For clarification, the 3 million that was estimated for the utilities did include the cost to connect the individual properties to the lines. It did not include necessarily the cost for the other utilities that need to be relocated. But it would take care of the electric, all the electric.
So this was this was consistently the highest scoring project for both the public and this committee. Is there an agreement that this should be added to the slate?
So
Okay.
how do we
Yes,
individually
yes,
vote,
is there
or
a
we just
yes,
make a
yes?
motion?
No, you can raise hands. Yes for this project? I think it is probably, it's unanimous. And I also have sorry, I should also have mentioned that 3 of the LPC members who are not in attendance submitted absentee. Caitlin is absent. Oh, sorry, Caitlin is a recusal because she works for LIPA, and Linda and Sean have voted yes. So it is unanimous, and we'll add that to the slate. Do I see a round of hands, sorry, yes to add phase 2 to the pipeline?
Yes.
Okay, so then that will not be included in the slate, but at least it is on your pipeline, which we deem an important project and very necessary to revitalization. Okay. The next project we would take up is the new town green with connections to local trails, new village green, library green. This would involve the new construction of a town green over the existing municipal lot next to the library, as well as a renovation of the library's open space and the installation of a new trailhead. This is a request for 3.5 million from the town. Do we have any comments, or do we have any comments before taking a vote? Yes?
I would just like to say that personally, I think this is one of the ones that's the most transformative of the projects that have been submitted.
Absolutely.
Okay, so those voting yes on this project? We will add that to the slate. The next project from the LPC's prioritization was rebranding and marketing for downtown Kings Park. Yes, this is a project to update, to provide the town with a marketing and branding strategy, to update signage, as well as, signage and wayfinding throughout the downtown that is consistent with the brand for downtown Kings Park. Do we have any comments before taking a vote on this? Can we see a set of hands for those voting yes on this project? So that project is added to the slate. The next project is 10, Small Project Grant Program. It's a request for $600,000 from the town of Smithtown to administer a small project grant fund. We received over $600,000 in requests from local businesses, mostly relating to facade improvements. This committee has recommended the criteria, i.e. Proximity to Main Street, a preference for external and limiting interior renovations, as well as a clawback provision in terms of whether if someone were to demolish or sell their property and the renovations were to disappear. So there would be a clawback provision. Do we have any comments or questions about this project? Okay, seeing none, can we see a vote for those in favor of this project?
I think I have to abstain.
Yes, those who abstain cannot vote, but the threshold is lower, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And from the absentees, Linda, Sean, and Caitlin have voted yes. I don't have Joanne's votes. Next project to take up is LIR Pathways to Main Street and Resavat Park. This would be a request for $287,000. $287,000 to install a pathway from Savat to the LIR station. This would include crosswalks and landscape space that would, make it more inviting and direct traffic from the station to Main Street. Sorry, pedestrian traffic. Are there any questions about this project?
Can we advocate for it?
Yes, you can say yes, or what you like about it, or what you don't like.
Okay, I advocate for this project. I feel like when you get off the train, there's no clear direction as to what you should do or where you should go. And I think the signage that we're planning that should help with that. But to have a pathway that goes right into the center of town, to the bagel shop, to Ralph's, I think it's really important for people, and their wayfinding.
I'd like to add to that. I mentioned last meeting that speed bumps should be included in that project because of the traffic running through the parking lot. And it seems to me as though the town owns most of that parking lot, so I don't know the name of the back road in the back there, but certainly cars run right through that parking lot, and I could just see somebody in the crosswalk getting hurt because people are rushing through, so.
Yeah, I think especially with the town projects, the scopes will, continue to evolve because they would need public engagement and public feedback if these projects are funded and go through. So you will see additional design enhancements and more direct conversations about design as these are implemented. So for sure, I would think safety features would be a part of this. But I think they are actually included in our scoping as well, with the crosswalks. Okay, so can we see a set of hands for those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 8, and yes. So this project will be added to the slate. The next project on the LPC's list is 40 Church Street VFW renovations. This is a request from the VFW for $728,000. As mentioned earlier, I think I went over the scope, but basically we would be it's a proposal to renovate the VFW interior and exterior, as well as to make it into a resilient space and to add generator and to basically become a space for meetings and public usage. Are there any questions about this project? Can we see a set of hands for this project? Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So the VFW is added to the slate, project 17. The next project is 74 Main Street, Ciro's. This is a facade renovation and the creation of open space patio at Ciro's restaurant. It is a request for $105,000. They would install new windows, garage doors style windows, and create an open patio. Yes, so those, comments or questions on this project before we?
I guess it's a question for the town. Would Ciro's be able to put the outdoor seating where they're proposing putting it here without the garage doors? Does town code allow for that?
I defer to the planning department.
Yeah, you could do outdoor dining without roll-up windows. There's a lot of restaurants around town, but it's more desirable for a lot of the restaurants lately, where they want the roll-up doors and have the outside atmosphere inside the restaurant as well.
Everybody could have bugs. Votes for everybody.
Okay, can we see a set of hands for this project? Those in favor, we have a majority. Thank you. Okay, sorry, I lost my list, but it is Project 1820 Thompson Street, the American Legion. This is a similar project in that it will include interior and exterior renovations, new landscaping, solar panels, and the creation of, a renovation of a space that is geared towards increasing public usage and needing space for the community. It is a request for $481,000. It's 100% of the construction cost because they are a nonprofit. Yes, so any questions about this? There is one recusal. Yes. Questions or comments about this project? Seeing none, can we see a show of hands for those in favor of the project? Okay. Yes, okay, so the American Legion is added to the slate. The last high-scoring project is 5056 Main Street. It is a facade and interior renovation of a commercial plaza. It will provide 4 renovated spaces and a renovated lobby. It is a request for $309,000 or 75% of the construction cost. Do we have any comments or questions about this project? Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay. Lots of questions. I'm just curious as to why some other people might think that this is a priority project. I don't see it, in terms of bringing in apartments or, even the positioning of the building is not ideal as it is. I mean, I think this looks better than what's there, but I'm just wondering if anyone else could tell me why they would think it's a priority?
I mean, I'm glad to speak up for that. The idea of the project is to improve the look of the town. And the way that building looks right now, it's not really up to speed. The money being asked is not over the top. That's the whole purpose of this downtown revitalization, is to give people the opportunity to turn their business into something that's attractive. You said yourself, it looks pretty attractive. It's not a lot of money. All things considered, it's not a lot of money. Each owner is asked to put some money up to support it. They have to pay for it up front before they don't get the money until the project's done, so they're committed to it. I just see that as an improvement to the town. Because otherwise, we don't give the money. Maybe there's not enough money to do the renovation to make it look like that. And unfortunately, then it won't be as much of an improvement with less money than what we would want in the town.
Any other comments from committee members?
I also think that this has been vacant for a long time, and we've been asking for it to be filled. For it to be filled, she needed to tap into their sewer system, and I think she has gotten tapped into the sewer system. So before, she wasn't able to use it for maybe a little diner or a tea room or something because they didn't have the water, the septic, the sewer. So I mean, by the grace of God, this goes to something better. The building is where the building is. It's been here since my grandfather was here. And the parking is the parking. You have to back out carefully, just like we've done
for 50 or 60 years. So she's not moving the building. So you could either have it renovated at a modest income right now, and she's not talking about putting apartments in there on the second floor as it stands right now. It is perhaps a potential for the future, but it's not in this proposal. I would like to see this up and running. You know, you have your great karate shop and the bank across the street, and we're trying to fix that up. This needs to be fixed.
A lot of buildings need to be fixed, but they do, you know?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
There's
I
some
mean,
historic
we're
buildings that need
benefiting
fixed.
somebody for not doing something. A lot of these projects are people that have kept their properties in good repair, looking to make them even better. This is in disrepair. There hasn't been any money put into this building, and we're bailing her out. I don't think that's the, I understand that at the end of the day, it makes the town look better, and absolutely, that's part of this. But we're benefiting somebody for doing less. And that's the problem with this on my end. I just think, what happens if she doesn't do anything from after we give her all the money? And in 5 years, we're back in the same situation and she's asking for more money?
Just playing devil's advocate, it could, if we funded this one, it would obviously mean that another one that may be more beneficial won't be.
And one thing I just want to clarify, and just sort of reiterate, is that with the way these contracts and this funding works, that if any project that's a private development is awarded by the state, they will not receive any sort of reimbursement until the project is complete. So, you know, there would be no risk of potentially, you know, giving money away and losing it.
Just a point, I know that you're going in order of our feedback, but this one is also, this project is highly rated by the town. It's the first one outside of the highest alignment. So, you know, in order of what the town wanted, this is project number 7, it looks like to me. So, I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
If we only took public projects, we would only get to just short of 10 million, right? And, I mean, but that's the conversation we're having right now. It's like, which of these are the most, a lot of these are worthy and a lot of these have issues. That's also why not all of these are consistently high. They're all in the middle. And, you know, that's something that the state will also take into account. Just because it makes the slate doesn't mean it gets awarded, you know. If a project is kind of consistently lagging in certain respects, you know, because we have to have like substitutes or like whatever is kind of next in line. Because at 9.7, there's, you know, some projects might fall through and, you know, or some might be not ideal, and then we have to go to the next project. So that's why we're kind of getting to a slate of 13 to 16 million.
As we approve more than we have, which we know we're supposed to do tonight, 13 million, I think. Let's say, what is the order will be the priority in that we placed on them?
So the way it works is that once you approve the slate tonight, these projects will then be referred back to New York State, and then each of our, both Pop and myself, the Department of State will go through and score them. Our colleagues at Empire State Development and HCR will both also go through and score them, because these are the 3 agencies that will ultimately hold the contracts to help bring these projects to fruition. From there, it really just depends on, you know, when each agency ratifies the contract and where it can begin. There's no, you know, priority that, like, let's say, okay, you know, the community will, there will also be really no way of knowing, because when you vote on the slate, it's all gonna be just, you know, straight yes or no.
What we're doing is, like, based on your feedback, we're going through as a way of just organizing this meeting, right? That's really all that was. But the state's criteria is basically the same as yours. Like, they're looking at transformative, like, catalytic impact, all these things, co-benefits. So they are assessing it in the same way, and so all the comments that are here are also gathered as well and, you know, fed back to the state. And public support is also one of the categories you look at too.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, so it is the same criteria that you all are looking at. Questions about project 5, 50 to 56 Main Street? Maybe we can take a vote, initial vote, and see what happens. Those voting yes on this project? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I have to go through the absentee to see that Linda has voted no, Sean has voted yes, and Caitlin has voted yes, which means a majority have approved this project. So we will add that to the slate.
I just want to clarify something I said before. When we were discussing about, both, the Department of State and ESD and HDR going through and evaluating the projects, like Edward said, that has ultimately no bearing. We don't rank which projects are better than this or that. We just find that the best way to use the money. I was more getting into a little more of the detail about how the projects ultimately are selected for funding by the state. So I just wanted to quickly just clarify that for everybody here tonight, and especially for the LPC as you make your decision.
So we are through the first, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the first 9 projects, which have been consistently high from the LPC. There's a lot of overlap with this list and what the public has rated high. So, from that being said, now we're moving into the sort of mid-tier or the mid projects. Those that have been scored either medium by either the public or the LPC or both. But I just want to, if you could look at kind of the screen, or I don't know, might be too small to see. Right now we're at a slate of 10.9 million. So minimum, we need to find 2 million in project requests at this point, or a maximum of 5 million. I don't know if we'll get to 5, but it sounds like we're probably, getting to the conversation about what is the remaining at least 2 million and at max 5 million. So that said, I would, at this point, are there any nominations from the committee to take up a project? Otherwise, we will still continue on with the list. So 174 Main Street renovation, this is Sprouts. Susan, you may have to leave, unfortunately. Sprouts Garden Center was the next project, but this is a renovation of 1,800 square feet that will add an enhanced 2-story addition to the existing building, as well as ground floor retail and 2 apartments. Do we have questions or comments about this project? This project dropped down its request to 50%. So it is a 50% match, and the request for this is $429,000. I think I misspoke. It was 1 retail space and 2 new apartments in the new structure.
So I think this is a good example of a property owner who has gone into what was semi-derelict, the former garden center that was there, and really put a lot of their own sweat equity into making this into a very attractive location. Putting a lot of their time, money, and effort into fixing that up and making it very attractive. This is an interesting proposal because it's not overdeveloped, in that part of the town, it's not the center of town, but it includes 2 apartments, a small restaurant, on an already existing, an already attractive, in an already attractive location. And it's not a lot of money. I think it could be a benefit to the town. I agree.
Can we see set of hands for this project? Those voting yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Unanimous. Okay. And for the record, Linda voted yes, Sean voted yes, and Caitlin voted no. So, but we have a majority. So this project, 174 Main Street, will be added. Do we have any nominations for the next project? Otherwise, we'll take the next project on the list. 2436 Main Street, which is a proposed new construction of a 3-story, 21 square foot mixed-use development at 2634 Main. The new building will include 5 retail spaces on the ground floor and 16 one-bedroom apartments. The new building is providing essentially a net increase of 10 new apartments, as well as community facility space on the ground floor for at least one of the commercial units. They'll also widen the existing sidewalk. Questions and comments about this? So the construction cost went down, as well as both the construction cost and the fund request went down. So we have 6 million in cost against 900,000 in request. Any questions or comments? I mean, I'm sure there are questions and comments about this.
Okay.
I like the fact that he did add retail space, facing Main Street. That's a positive. I guess my question is, from a historic perspective, this is knocking down 2 or 3 of the historic buildings at the start of town. I mean, this is the Main Street that we know. These are, like them or not, these are our historic buildings. I wish there was a way to somehow incorporate them, or I guess that would come down to the town. And so if this project, if the funding were approved for it, could there be later discussions about the design of it?
If the master plan is adopted, it would be subject to the downtown design guidelines that are set by the town, which are as part of the master plan, if that's correct.
There had been another building that was part of this project, which is where Sullivan and Kehoe are. That's not part of the project. The project as is would involve removing, taking down the buildings that are there. There would be design requirements if it got funded and ended up coming to the town. There would be architectural review comments.
If they're salvageable at all? I mean, or is this a situation where, the properties have just been let go for so long that they're not even viable? Are there apartments in there? There's retail.
I don't think the town can, we don't have knowledge, but yeah, we don't have an assessment of those buildings.
Would you know, Allison, if this structure is similar to what went across the street from Town Hall? Because it looks like the same rendering.
I believe that it was used as a template, as a general concept.
Because when that went up from Town Hall, and that is commercial-esque, I was like, ew, sorry, architecture. But this is gonna be right in the middle of our Main Street.
Hey, Kristen, the only other thing I would point out is, I think they wanted to do something on a quick scale because for the grant application, you didn't have a lot of time to talk about a lot of the details, but this is one of those projects that in our prior conversations is very dependent on a lot of things happening. There's significant number of variances that would be needed from the Board of Zoning Appeals, let alone approval from the Board of Site Plan Review. So the Board of Site Plan Review would also be the one that would have to look at the architectural details. The sewers at least solve some of the sanitary issues here, but as far as to construct something like that, it would be dependent on a lot of variances, relief from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
And every single development that is, approved as part of the slate and that is approved and given the funding by the state is still subject to all the required local approvals. There's no potential expedition of any project. Everything still has to go through the planning board, through the zoning board if applicable, and so forth. So.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is just for you guys to be careful in regards to reducing some of these award amounts. I'm sure Rachel will agree. There are projects that we're currently implementing from past DRIs that didn't request enough money and are actually falling off and won't be able to be constructed. I can't name the community, but I have a project right now that didn't ask for enough money for their DRI request, and a year or two can change a lot in terms of cost, construction costs, and so on and so forth. So just making you guys aware of that.
Yeah, I think we do our best to, both with the town and the private sponsors, to account for escalation and increasing costs. So they are sort of built in, but as Pop said, there are a lot, even with contingencies, it can end up costing more scale. Are we ready to take a vote, or do we want to move on to other projects?
On this particular project, this is known as a tear down.
Yes.
So they're leveling it and starting.
It is new construction, because the cost to rehab is cost prohibitive. So,
Cost prohibitive, or is it just not structurally sound enough to add?
I think in terms of there's also perhaps issues, but I would say we can't tell people what to spend on a certain building, but generally the cost would be more than we can take a vote. Okay, let's take a vote. Those in favor of this project? Those opposed? So then nobody was ready to make a decision about this project yet. So let's table that project for now. The next project on the list is 152 Main Street. This is the renovation of a 2,400 square foot commercial building. They would add a second story above with 3 one-bedroom apartments. The facades and interiors on the ground floor would also be renovated. And this would allow the businesses to increase patient capacity and expand community service offerings. This is a request for $1,088,000, which is 75% of the construction cost. Questions and comments about this project? All these projects are separated by very little. A lot of these projects in the middle, were scored very close. And so there's a little bit separating each of them. They all have pros and cons. Which projects do we feel stick out and are worthy to elevate to the slate? And just as a reminder, the slate is now at 11.3 million. So we're pretty close. We just need to add 1.6 million. Okay, so why don't we go to those projects? So project 7 is 83 Pulaski, proposed upgrades of septic system, parking areas, facades, a new patio area at Celtic Crossing. Exterior renovations will include new siding and improved aesthetics, new patio area for outdoor dining, and project 8, which is 95 Pulaski, New Pueblo, proposed exterior upgrades, including rear garden upgrades, parking, pavement, fencing, roofing, sewer connection, garage door, interior renovations and patio renovations to increase seating to up to 60 to 80 seats. So, a lot of these projects, again, this is a conversation we have, because these are projects that will still have to go through local processes, do not have necessarily the permitting or the approvals in place. And so there is always going to be a sense of risk with any of these private projects at the moment.
I think that's a good idea.
And I think a good way to look at it is that, on projects like this, there are approvals that they have to go through. I guess the question just becomes, do I like the project? Would I vote yes for this project? Given the fact that it may not bump another project off of my list. It's really the way you should look at it, which would be a good way to kind of get through.
Exactly. Okay, so why don't we take a vote on this? So for 7, which is Celtic Crossing, 83 Pulaski, can we see a set of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay, majority. And 95 Pulaski, New Pueblo renovation. This is the request for 140,000. Can we see a set of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, majority. So those two are added. Now we are up to 11.8 million. About what, I think a lot of people in the community want to see something done with this site, maybe not necessarily what they're proposing, but, what would be helpful, and I think, people, it didn't seem like the community really wanted this to continue as a storage site either, so, thoughts for the sponsor moving forward?
We do not want them to break their lease 7 more years and then try to put 40 units on a place where they've been storing oil. That's not what we're looking for. We definitely don't want that up the street. So let them run their lease out, clean their yard if they can or not. I'd rather look at that dirty yard and know that there's not 40 units. We're not ready for that. So I'm totally voting no for this.
I don't think it's ideal to have an oil storage facility in the heart of a revitalized downtown. But again, I do agree with you that I don't care if they, what they do with it down the line. I feel like it's There's still a lease there?
Yes.
Let them use their own money.
Two more years.
I think he said 7.
Let them use their own
He
money.
said he would
Yeah.
pay them off.
He would break it.
Why are we paying for it? They're a corporation with tons of money.
Yeah, I think at some point that the property owner could decide what they want to do and look at the cleanup. I think there's too many unknowns at this point.
Vote on this. Those in favor of this project? Those opposed to this project? Okay, so majority. This is the first no. The realty for 850,000. Proposed renovation of the existing 3-story building. It's existing as 3 stories at the moment, which houses a restaurant on the ground floor and 9 apartments on upper floors. The upgrades will include expansion of an outdoor north-facing patio and the south-facing patio on the other side as well. Exterior facade restoration with new windows, siding, and insulation, and enhancement of the entryways. Interior upgrades will be limited to the HVAC and refrigeration systems and targeted renovations to the ground floor, restaurant, and residential. So there is some on the residential units. Okay. Comments on this project?
It doesn't get more in the downtown than that. It's a historical building right in the middle of our main intersection.
There's a lot of historic significance to this building within the town. Yeah, it's the heart of the town, it really is.
This is now by the owner.
The owner is coordinating with the ground floor tenant, and to that extent, you know.
I think this and the 26 to 34 Main Street, these are two of the bigger asks. Oh, except for that Main Street mixed-use redevelopment for 57 to 63. You know, those are the 3 big projects. It would have to, it's almost like a choice, because we don't have enough to do all 3, or recommend all 3, right? So, it's this.
I think you might.
Might? Because we can go up to 15 million?
You could go up to.
Oh, we can go up to 6.
Right now we're at 11.
Ah, put this one in there. Go up to 16 million. It's an important building. It's, this was, you know, this is one of our most historic buildings.
Let's get a vote on this. So those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that is the majority. So we will add that to the list. So we are at 12.6 million. So you would 12.6 million. So you're anywhere between, you can add between 400,000 to 3.4 million. Let's take up project 11, which is to redevelop South Municipal Lot into mixed use and open space. This is a request from the town for, it should be 700,000, which is what it's on your sheet. The town will issue a request for proposals for a 0.6 acre municipal lot south of the railroad tracks that can be combined with adjacent properties. It will assist with attracting developers to the site to expand the retail and residential options. Funding will be used for public parking and/or community facility and/or a landscape pathway for the LIR to Meadow Road. An eventual developer will be required to provide pedestrian access between LIR and Meadow Road. Comments or questions about this?
I'm sorry, I'm always stumped on this one. Are we spending this money to renovate this and to fix the train access? Or is this to be sold off to a developer?
It wouldn't be sold, but my understanding is the town would look into a long-term lease, ground lease, or...
But when you say a long-term lease, are you saying the steps to the train and then the rest of the property?
Well, yeah, so that's what I think the funding is generally for, is to ensure that the pathway is built and has open space features if it is developed.
So you're saying that property could be developed, so for 700,000, we'll have steps to the train?
Open space and community, well, okay, I think the wording is, funding will be used for public...
What's that? And lose the parking
Well,
lot.
no, funding will be used to, you don't lose, well, I mean, you lose the parking lot to whatever the development is, but funding will be used for public parking, community facility space, and a landscape pathway from the LIR to Meadow Road. So that's essentially what you're this money is using to fund or incentivize a developer to maintain as part of a development. Those in favor of this project? Those opposed to this project? 1, 2, 3. It needs to be a majority in order to get it off. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. I think you got to the majority. I can read the others, but just to make sure. I think we got theirs. Oh wait, they all said yes.
They said yes?
The 3 absentees voted yes. So sorry, can we see this just to confirm to the no's? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that one is no.
Excuses on this, correct?
Sorry?
Was there?
Yes.
No.
There's
not
one,
for
yes, Tony's recusal, but
So does that change the percentage you need?
no. We are down to 5 projects, and, to 14. 5763 Main Street, which is request from Bravado Holding of 1.999 million. This is a proposal for new construction of 9,000 square foot mixed-use building on a vacant lot after the original building was lost to fire. The new design includes 1 floor of 2-bedroom apartments with 2 units above the ground floor storefront. The development will transform a vacant lot into an attractive commercial hub featuring holistic wellness center, 1 additional retail space, and enhance the community through the provision of health services and retail and residential options. Again, request for 1.99 million, 74% of the cost. Questions and comments about this?
A big one. At a previous meeting, somebody asked, and I don't know if the applicant provided the information, but they asked what happened to the insurance money from the fire that destroyed the building that was previously there, and why aren't they using that to develop this property? Did they ever answer that question?
I have no problem answering the question. The original money we did put in, we have had steel purchased, and along with demolition, purchase of steel is in the hundreds of thousands at this point. We did try to start construction, but it became an issue of safety, and immediately the building had to be dropped within an hour and a half. And upon dropping the building, they pulled up every part of all the underground, what is it called, the foundation. So we basically were at a point of standard where we could have built up. We already had foundation work already put into place. We're going to get up around $100,000. Where we were going in with new steel to make everything great. But when the building dropped, it pulled up everything and turned it into a brand new foundational build up from the ground up. So we were held up due to the fact of COVID, getting supplies, everything happened in time frame where it all held us to a point of, hey, we're ready, COVID's now over, we can now start bringing things in. The building had gotten weathered due to being out in the elements for so long that happened.
Sorry, we're gonna have to anyhow, because we did know that she had reported to us that it was used for the steel and that there was attempts to rebuild the building. So, you know, what people's finances are, are they able to financially carry out, you know, the project based on their existing finances, and they have supplied information that would suggest that they would get the financing available to, so whether the money is from insurance or not is kind of irrelevant to the criteria at this moment.
When you're asking for 74% of the project to be paid by this fund, it does, everything comes into play.
But we cannot let people's, you know, whether they're a billionaire or a millionaire, like, should not really cloud. What we are doing is assessing the, you know, the transformative nature of the project and the catalytic impact, the co-benefits, and what the projects will individually bring. You know, from that question, then the question should be, could the grant be reduced based on whatever their financial situation? And that is the fair question. But based on the finances submitted to date, that is kind of the limits of the grant, the lowest that we could get to was 1.99 million, and so.
So it seems to me that one of the concerns is that this is a big ask. When you only have $9.7 million to give away and somebody's asking for $2 million, it's how transformative is that project? Is it worth bouncing $2 million worth of other things off the list to approve this one? However, this project kind of dovetails with some of the town's initiatives, with the American Legion, with the new parking lot, and with the kind of redesign of that middle Main Street. And I think it's important enough to wind up at least as a pipeline project, if not funded through the DRI, because it seems that most people are like, do I want to pull $2 million off of other things? And I think that at least from what I've heard, the general answer is no, that I don't think that that's there. But I think that this is important to be in the pipeline because it does fix up middle Main Street, which is in sore need.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Okay, so let's start with the slate. So are there any other outstanding questions or comments about this project? So those in favor of adding this to the slate, or those opposed to adding it to the slate?
You're gonna put it on a pipe?
We will take up, yeah, well, we have to decide on, so no to the slate, and I think that, can I see the hands again? I think that's the majority. Okay, and then, so those agreeing to add this to the pipeline list? 1, 2, so yes, 9, okay. Okay, project 13 is One Village Plaza renovation. It's an existing this is the facade renovation of 4,670 square foot building to reflect the historic character of the town through new sidings, windows, and landscaping, and the addition of an ADA ramp and elevator. 13B is 12 Renwick. Again, this was the one-story building, which would add an additional floor, a new second floor with 6 new apartments. Renovation of existing space would include new walls, flooring, plumbing, HVAC, and windows indoors. So, how do we feel about these projects? Our comments and questions about this?
I find 13B a little bit more intriguing than 13A in terms of benefits to the town. Again, not right on Main Street, not a big impact, but I kind of like pipelining 13B, I would propose.
There are only 4 projects left, and to get to 13 million, you actually have to include one, because we've eliminated some of these other ones. The only way to get to 13 million is to include one of 12, 13B, or 15. Because right now we're at 12.6, and including the lowest at the moment, which is 13A, would not get you to 13 million. So, 12, there's only 4 projects left, 12, 13A, 13B, and 15. And you can, right now we're at 12.6 million, meaning you can only get to 13 million if we get between 12, 13B, and 15.
Just 2 points, 13A, 13B, and 15 are the furthest from Main Street for the purposes of revitalizing downtown. 15 is a great business, but it's all the way at the very edge of our map.
Do we want to? Why don't we start with 13A, which is the lowest of these? So, One Village Plaza renovation. It's a request for $195,000 for mainly facade. Can we see a show of hands on this project? Yes? Okay. Those voting no? Okay, so that's no. So then at least one of these 3 will be included because there's no way to get to 13 million now. 12, 13B, and 15. So, I mean, conceivably, actually, I think mathematically you can include all of them or none, or 1, 2, or 3 of them. So why don't we just go through each of these? So which one do we want to take up first? Okay, 2634 Main Street. Let's get a vote. Yes, those voting yes for 2634 Main Street. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is, wait. Yeah, it's 8, so 8 is the majority. 13B, 12 Renwick is a request for 600,000. Let's see a show of hands.
Quick question?
Yes.
Because you said 12 had the most restrictions, is there any harm to voting yes on 13B and 15 as a group?
Yeah, you can include both of those as, well, I mean, you can include both of those, or we can add them to the pipeline.
Okay.
So 13B, 12 Renwick Plaza, which is 600,000. Those voting yes. 1, 2, 3. No. Those voting no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, 8. So 8 voted no. So then that's a no. How about, sorry, for 12 Renwick, would we vote for yes for the pipeline? Those voting yes? 12 Renwick, yeah, 13B.
13B.
Yeah. Pipeline?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, it's not a majority. Okay. All right, there's the majority. Okay. So that will be a pipeline project. 152 Main Street. Request for 1.088 million. Those voting yes. There's no yes. Those voting no. It has. Okay, those pipeline. Those voting yes for pipeline. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, there. We have our slate. So the slate is 13.5 million. Project 1, streetscape and pedestrian safety. 2, LIR pathways to Main Street. 3, New Village Green. 4, Main Street. 5, 50, 56 Main Street. 6, 74 Main Street. 7, 83 Pulaski. 8, 95 Pulaski. 9, rebranding and marketing. 10, small project grant fund. 11, redeveloped South Municipal Lot is, sorry, I don't think we took a pipeline on this. Is this on the pipeline? This is no, completely no.
Correct.
Completely no? Completely no. So it's not even in the pipeline. 12, 2634 Main Street redevelopment is in the slate. 13A, One Village Plaza renovation is no. Is this on the pipeline? No. 12 Renwick, 13B is in the pipeline. 14, 57, 30, 63 Main Street is a no, but on the pipeline. 152 Main Street is also on the pipeline, but not in the slate. 174 Main Street is on the slate. 40 Church Street, the VFW, is on the slate. 20 Thompson Street, Project 18, American Legion, is on the slate. And 19, 125 Meadow Road, future redevelopment is no, and it is not on the pipeline. So,
I'd like to say thank you to the team from New York State. You guys came into our community and really.
but we'll take public comment now. So if folks can line up at the center, and we'll hand you the mic.
First thing, in reference to the building right by the firehouse there that everybody voted for, that originally was brought to you by the tenant, which is now proposed to you by the owner. So everybody has skin in the game on that one. A lot of these buildings, I don't hear you talking about the tenants at all, what may happen to them during all these renovations. Also, that last one you voted for to tear down and put the three-story building up in the middle of town, you specifically said it would look like the one in Smithtown. That is not what a historic Kings Park should look like. I do not want to drive through town looking at three-story apartment buildings that we're funding and then call this an historic town. It's a whole new town. It's nowhere near what the character of this town would be. And I'm in big favor of not having anything go above 2 stories at all. It's out of character of this town. Also, to some of the architecture, I get they're just generic drawings, but in reference to the architecture of more of an historic value, in reference to the facades of these buildings, maybe there could be a request or an emphasis to build the character of our town through the architecture of these buildings, as opposed to just putting up prefabricated, shitty-looking buildings in plain English for somebody to make money off of us. I think that's terrible. If we're going to maintain and build the character of our community, we should keep that as an integrity point of everything we do. Thank you.
Obviously, everybody's worked very hard on this project, and I thank all of you. I'm just wondering if we were disenfranchised in some way. You said you got 110 surveys. I personally had some disagreements, some suggestions. I don't understand how any of the material that you've been given by outsiders has been processed. Because if you want to make it blue and I wanted to make it red, and you just had me write down, I want to make it red, and there are 1,000 reasons why, and it never gets presented. So I may have had the greatest idea or the worst idea, but I don't understand the whole process. Why did we fill out all these forms? Why did all this work? When nobody in this room is talked about it, maybe doesn't care, maybe doesn't even know it exists. So where's the public input that people have been doing for months and months, including this gentleman now? I had a thought, and it may be the worst one in the world, it might be the best, about opening up the area where Sabbath Park is. Since a new park was going to be built, you'd have easy access, you wouldn't have to block at the light to go all the way around to get into the train station. That's the way it was once upon a time. Why do you have to have, I mean, it's King's Park, and we make laughs about all the parks. You need a Sabbath Park, name the other one Sabbath. This is all in writing, this is all submitted. Nobody talks about it. You wasted my time. And I'm just one person with one particular idea. There are many. I have others, and I'm sure other people do. I don't understand how this process works if we've been disenfranchised and if you don't get our ideas. So, to me, this is all happening. I'm watching the train go by, but I don't know that the train is correct. The other thing is, what if everybody had said, we don't want these bump outs and all this landscape? What if, for some reason, we just had a bunch of negative people? You buy that, you put that into effect because they voted for it? Well, 12 people said they wanted it, and 6 they didn't. Sometimes you have to turn around and say it's a lousy idea, or it's a good idea. I have seen nothing of people discussing the future of Kings Park. This building that was a Chinese restaurant, it's been 28 things all along, happens to be very pretty at the moment, comparatively. Well, why are we putting all that money into that so the building next to it can still look lousy? I was one that said, better put bathrooms in that new park. It wasn't in any of the paperwork. I wrote it into my thing. I can see it being built without a bathroom because there's no official plan, there's no official statement of what we said. Yes, it's in the record somewhere.
Town projects are not final concepts. I have said this at every meeting. None of these projects are final concepts because they have to go through additional public review and local processes, and what we decide, the sponsors supply enough information to make decisions about prioritization of funding. Then they will go and, pursue their projects, implement and, continue to engage. But this is early feedback for these sponsors so that we get them to a state that at least we can decide, whether these are at least something we'd like to, fund or, see in the
Hello, how you
future.
doing? Just, my name is Tim Mike. I'm just wondering about a couple of things. My biggest gripe is with the zoning that's going on and the proposed zoning changes, as well as some ethics involved in everything. As far as zoning changes are called, how is this going on without an environmental impact statement? An environmental impact statement was never done on all these zoning changes because they threw it out there to the library, and I wrote a letter to the board saying, please annex Kings Park master plan from the upcoming vote concerning rezoning of the Smithtown plan for the following reasons. The environmental impact plan was not released to the libraries for public viewing until February 29th, 24, a mere 3 weeks before the final planning board meeting, which was the last chance for public input at that time. No rezoning should be finalized for future development because that was never included in the initial questionnaire filled out by Gail A. Pesner on November 1st, 2019. In fact, in C3-3.3-C, in the questionnaire when asked, is a zoning change requested as part of the proposed action? It was checked off as no. So how can this possibly be an accurate environmental impact statement in the area when the new proposed zoning laws in just the transit-oriented development area alone are allowing up to 262 apartments and 3-story buildings everywhere in that zone, except for being adjacent to residential property?
In all the proposals, you know, and I just think everybody from Kings Park, we are so excited. We really want to see the downtown revitalized. It looks you know, it's embarrassing. My kids, it's embarrassing having people come here through this town the way it looks right now, to be honest. So we all have such a vested interest in seeing it. There was no mention of parking in any of these proposals. There was no real mention of, you know, the people who are having apartments, all these extra apartments. Where's the parking going to be? So I'd like to see that in the next round. And one other thing is, we're counting on all you guys. We're counting on the business owners of Kings Park. You know, we're going to go through this process together as we're all going through and suffering through Main Street being dug up and all these roads and sewers. Take care of your property. If you're the landlord and your trees are growing and your lights don't matter, the person knows what I'm talking about. You know, you're the landlord. Keep up your property. Take care of it because it really matters. And it's not up to the tenants to, you know, they should keep their place nice, that's of course. But you're the owner of the property and you should take care of it. And I just hope going forward, after seeing what this town really looks like and what maybe it can be, I hope that after this is all done, said and done, that it continues to prosper and look nice because we all want this. We really do. The whole town wants this. We want better for our town.
You know, it's a lot to get through. There's a lot that, you know, you're not going to agree with. There are things, it was like how tough it was for you all to get to a slate today, but, you know, this is a special place, and it is all dependent on, you know, the folks here. And I think the folks who are here, who have businesses here, who volunteer here, I mean, that's how this committee was formed. It's not just residents, it's everyone who has a stake in this community, whether you're a business owner, a resident, or whether your kids are in the school system. You know, people really feel that they have, you know, a stake, and I think despite the fact that, you know, we may not agree with everything, I think everybody wants what's best for this town moving forward, and the work is not done. So there's much to be done and more conversations to be had, but it is the start of, I think, you know, all the things and all the work that has collectively been done, and I do want to acknowledge the hard work of the Smithtown Planning Department, who is probably one of the best that we have dealt with, and I know that they have the best interests of the town and this neighborhood. So you are all in good hands, and you know the work continues.